Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, or my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. So get ready to talk to the Waterman yourself right now. Call in with your questions to talk with your host, Paul the Waterman.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Water Talk. I'm Paul the Waterman. Thank you for being here with me today. Got a great show as always, and I want to kick it off. One of the things that have always bothered me are those people out there selling water filtration, installing water filtration systems, and not being licensed properly as required by the Department of Regulatory Agencies, or as, commonly known, DORA. And so I want to share with you guys the new laws on the books that I think is going to help weed out the phonies. And so in June of 24, the bill HB 24-1344 for the State Plumbing Board became law, and the changes to the statutes within the bill reflected additional requirements for plumbing licensees and registrants and require the board to update and revise their rules. So here are the rules, and this became effective yesterday, April 30th of 2025. And this is why it's important, because there's too many phony balonies out there. And so as of June 30th, 2025, plumbing contractors are going to be required to display their plumbing contractor registration number and license number of the contractor's responsibility master plumber on their vehicles. So basically what this means, like for us, we're a plumbing contractor, so we have a plumbing contractor license number. We also have a master plumber who's responsible for our plumbers. And so, he has his own master plumber, license number. And so they're going to want both those numbers on the vehicles. So, my personal vehicle that I use in business, and anybody that has a vehicle that comes to your home to, give you a presentation, want to leave you with a bid, is going to have that information. And I'll continue. So contractors are required to display their plumbing contractor registration number and license number on the contractor's responsibility master plumber of the vehicles, billing materials, bid sheets, and websites pursuant to Section 12-155-125 of the Colorado Revised Statute. The purpose of these rules is to ensure transparency and accountability among plumbing contractors by requiring the display of relevant registration and license information wherever public interaction will occur. And that's important. See, I know right now there's a company that basically started out selling vacuum cleaners, and so they use their vacuum cleaner sales license to finance and install water softeners and not registered, as a plumbing contractor. And they charge an arm and a leg for their filtration systems. Other companies out there going door to door. When you go door to door and you're knocking and you're trying to solicit business, which is a form of a sincere, a form of marketing, you need to be registered with the municipality. So like if Water Pros, if we wanted to go hang out flyers in Aurora, in our backyard where, outside where our office is, we have to register and get a license that specifically allows us to do door hangers. And if you want to canvas, there's a license specifically for canvassing. If you see people, wanting to go door to door, you need a roof replacement or sell you a security system. They really need to be licensed with that local city's jurisdiction. So, some additional details I want to share with you regarding this change. The vehicles subject to law include those that are company-owned or personal vehicles used for the company's business purposes for any length of time. So that means even, a salesperson. So if a company's out there and they hire someone to go out and sell their product, they have to display this information on their vehicle. The registration and license number must be prominently displayed in at least 2 locations on the vehicle and must be readable. with the lettering at least 2 inches in height. So look for car magnets, I would think, right? And nowadays, some cars you can't even put a car magnet on. So that's going to be something where, it'd be interesting in the location. They would choose for this. For bid forms provided to the public, so that's a quote, right? By any general contractor, the plumbing contractor must ensure that either the registration and license number are entered at the top of the first page of the general contractor's bid form or at the top of the cover sheet. The plumbing contractor submits to the general contractor, then provided to the public. So any documentation that you use is going to have all this information on it. Registrations and license numbers for building materials should be placed near the contractor's contact information. This is this section right here, I think, is really going to get rid of the phony balonies that are in the marketplace today. Regarding your website, websites must prominently display the registration and license on the home page of the company website and should also appear on the Contact Us and About Us pages to ensure visibility. Any plumbing contractor advertising on any website, including social media, should also display the required registration and license numbers. So this is something that I hope they enforce. So when you're out and about and you're looking for a plumbing contractor, anything, it doesn't have to be just for water softening or water filtration, you should see the plumbing contractor's license and their license number, which would be a PC number. Staying with PC would be the first 2 letters, or the master plumber's license number would start with MP for master plumber. Then there'd be digits after that. Plumbing contractors must ensure all required displays are updated in the event of changes in the company's plumbing contractor number or responsibility if they change a master plumber. So this is something that I'm glad that's occurred. I wanted to share this with you. It's important because there's just, like I said, there's too many people out there that are right now selling and installing water filtration systems. They're not doing it by the book, or, they're not doing it, what's in a legal manner. So, having a master plumber responsibility is a requirement to be a plumbing contractor. And so this is one law that with DORA, the Department of Regulatory Agency, I'm agreeing with. It's from the Division of Professional and Occupations. I think it's good. I think it's something that's well needed to protect the integrity of this industry. On a side note, I was talking. I'm going to visit a customer after the show this afternoon, and he was wanting a quote for whole house water filtration. And he had major plumbing companies come out, and I'm just surprised. Prices for water filtration from our competitors are starting around $7,000 on up. And I hate to say this, but I think some are trying to condition the consumer that water filtration is going to be on par for a price of a furnace and air conditioner replacement. Furnace and air conditioner replacements are pretty expensive, and I think that's the direction they're going. So call Water Pros at 303-862-5554. Today, Rianne is there answering the phone, and she'll be able to set up your free water test, and we'll be more than happy to come out. We went to a customer this morning and did a water test in Commerce City, and boy, they had high total chlorine content, extremely hard water, and we're going to help them out with the Echo Pro Max, and I'm grateful, so thank you very much. And what I want to get into next is something that, we talked about and, kind of got overlooked, and we haven't talked about it, I guess, enough because of the forever chemical issue, the PFAS problem that we have, and then we found out, regarding what happens with really the wastewater from water treatment plants, and everybody basically is in a reusable state of water. So pharmaceuticals, this is something that information that came, from our top-notch reporter. So Brittany, thank you very much for this. The National Academy of Sciences. And so this was a global study. And so we're going to talk about, the pharmaceutical, concern and what's in our water regarding pharmaceuticals. The study of pharmaceuticals, pollution in rivers, covered several rivers in the United States. And so here's some, of the rivers, body of water that included in the study was the Mississippi River, the Hudson River, Colorado River, the Ohio River, and the Potomac River. And so, these were where the water samples were taken from. The study found varying levels of pharmaceutical pollutants, including antibiotics, painkillers, and antidepressants, which pose a risk to both the aquatic and the ecosystem and human health. So basically, if you like to go catfishing, or you like to go fishing for trout, and we have pharmaceuticals, in the water supply, that you're going to be eating pharmaceuticals when you eat the fish. And so that's something that, we have to consider. The statistics, the study found that 23% of the sample sites in the United States had exceeding concentration levels in aquatic life regarding pharmaceuticals. Specific pharmaceuticals detected including carbamazepine. It's an anticonvulsant and mood-stabilizing drug. Well, I know sometimes I need that, so maybe I should really start, drinking more water. Anyway, other ones, metformin, a medication used to treat type 2 diabetes. This is going to be a tough one. Ciprofloxacin. It's an antibiotic used to treat bacterial infections. See, antibiotic contamination is a big concern for me. So let me do a recap real quick what happens when you take medication. All right, before I do that, we're going to take our first commercial break, and then I'll let you know.
The EPA is making changes in regulations for water safety because of elevated levels of lead, Gen X, and forever chemicals in water supplies. Locally owned and operated Water Pros has home treatment solutions ready to install today. Water Pros employs the latest technologies and an expertly trained staff to help you with hard water, lead in your water, and mitigating forever chemicals. Book your complimentary test and consultation now, waterpros.net.
What's in your water? Are you concerned about drinking hormones, antibiotics, or dangerous chemicals? Paul the Waterman here from Water Pros. Don't wait to be sure your water is free from those contaminants. Have our professionals help with affordable solutions. Visit waterpros.net today.
Forever Chemicals in our water is now a part of our life. Forever Chemicals means that these chemicals don't break down. Call Water Pros for your free in-home evaluation of the concerns of Forever Chemicals and the ways to remove forever chemicals from your family's water supply. Call 303-862-5554 and request your free evaluation, or go to waterpros.net.
This is KLZ 560, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. Okay, so what happens when you take a medication? Your body basically metabolizes it, and then when you expel it out of your body, it becomes a metabolic. And once it becomes a metabolic, what that means is that it's easy to be ingested by somebody else. It's already processed. So once you expel it and you get rid of it, basically flushing it down the toilet, right? Let's be blunt. That means that now that medication is processed and it's going to be easily ingested by somebody else. And that's why it affects aquatic life, because it's already metabolized. It's a metabolic. And we learned the last couple of weeks that wastewater is dumped into bodies of water that they pull from. So everybody technically is in a reusable water state. Okay, so the next one, as far as a contaminant, after the antibiotic that we just talked about, is fluoxetine. Fluoxetine is an antidepressant commonly known as Prozac. Ibuprofen. Everybody knows what ibuprofen is, and this was even validated when Scott and I, back in the Haystack Help Radio days, we had a guest on, and he confirmed that every major over-the-counter medication was tested positive in brand new water reservoirs that they engineered in construction for the purpose of providing a community their drinking water. So we knew that, additionally, these pollutions can enter drinking water sources, posing risk to human health, as I just mentioned. Antimicrobial resistance, the presence of antibiotics in water can lead to an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. But here's the other issue. We're going to check that right there, because we learned, about a month ago, nanoplastics. Nanoplastics are now playing a part because nanoplastics are so small that bacteria can bond with the nanoplastic, and that's another factor where it can be, antibiotic resistance, is because nanoplastics. Remember the multiple issues of problems we have. That's why I say water's not safe for human consumption, because there's several factors going on that realistically our local, water treatment facility, cannot treat. And with these nanoplastics, that's an issue where they can bring in, bacteria. They can also bring in other carcinogens, viruses. And so the endocrine disruptors, these are hormones, and endocrine disruptors can interfere with human hormone systems. So what happens if we have hormonal swings, especially in young kids, and the possibility is that are they being affected by our water supply? Are they being, remember this, guys, it doesn't take a large contamination amount for that to be an issue. And why do I say that? Okay, what did we learn about the forever chemicals? The PFAS, so they started out by saying that an acceptable amount of PFAS was anything that was greater than 1 part per billion, less than 1 part per billion, misspoke. So 1 part per billion, what we learned is that you have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, body of water. You take 1 drop of the forever chemical, PFAS, that's 1 part per billion, that would contaminate that body of water, make it unsafe to drink. And then they changed it from 1 part per billion to one as small as 4 part per trillion. And now, of course, the EPA is updated, and it says really 0. You really want 0 part of any kind of forever chemical in your water supply. So I use that as an example to show you that you don't need to have a large number for it to be contaminated. It's quite the opposite. A part per trillion is enough in some cases to contaminate a whole body of water. The toxicity and organ damages can cause issues with these pharmaceuticals in our water supply. What's the risk to human health? And the study indicates that behavioral and psychological changes, antidepressants can affect human behavior. Waterborne pathogens, contaminated water can harbor pathogens causing diseases. So when we have, these issues of medication in the water supply, when we have hormones, my biggest concern, if you guys go to YouTube, on a side note, if you go to YouTube and you type in this topic, pharmaceuticals in my water supply, you'll see tons of videos that were done 12, 15, even 10, 12, 15 years ago. You'll see them there. There's news clips, and now all of a sudden, anything, that would be newer, you would think that anything current is not posted. You'll find videos regarding forever chemicals, but not pharmaceuticals. And I find that fascinating because the problem just didn't go away. You'll see videos that were done here in the United States and videos that were posted in the UK talking about the concerns of pharmaceuticals found in tap water, talk about the concerns of pharmaceuticals in the aquatic life. And then all of a sudden that's not there. So I find that suspicious. So do you want to know what Paul the Waterman's opinion is on this topic? I think it's done on purpose because of the misuse of hormones in people that want to augment their body. And so anytime you take a medication, your body is going to treat that as a foreign substance, and your body's going to do everything they can to expel it and get rid of it. So when you take a hormone that is not part of your natural body's design, it's going to treat it as a foreign substance and get rid of it. So what that means is that all these hormones, these, puberty blockers, I've mentioned this, I hate that word, but puberty blockers can actually end up in our water supply. So I'm wondering if they're not, by design, telling us the truth about the depth of the pharmaceutical contamination to cause an alarm. See, by law, everybody is supposed to produce a water quality report, give everybody an option to read exactly what's in the water. But that's, my personal opinion. I don't think these agencies go far enough. I don't think they're telling us the complete truth in, what is actually in the water. And I know for a fact they're not telling us exactly what the levels of the PFAS are. They're not telling us how many microplastics they're finding in the water supply. And we know microplastics are an issue. And we also know the microplastics have penetrated every part of the human body to the point where now it's penetrated the human brain. So that's something that, is concern. The EPA currently, plans to improve wastewater treatment. The EPA is working on enhancing wastewater treatment technologies to better remove pharmaceuticals from the water before it's released into the environment. So let's talk about that real quick. How would you remove a pharmaceutical? I think the only way you could remove a pharmaceutical is through nanofiltration, which would be reverse osmosis. But that opens up a whole nother can of worms, doesn't it? When you use reverse osmosis filtration, the RO membranes are not designed to deal with hard water. They're absolutely not. So the misuse of reverse osmosis, commercial reverse osmosis filtration on a municipal scale, will create even more problems for us. It will create nanoplastics. The reverse osmosis membranes themselves will start to deteriorate. And how did we learn that would happen? Remember? Anybody? That's right. The bottled water industry. Because the bottled water industry were the ones that first was reported about nanoplastic contamination in bottled water. And not only did they have nanoplastic contamination, they also had nylon fibers, part of the reverse osmosis membrane itself. And why did that happen? Because of the technology and the manufacturing process, meaning the technology. One, any kind of commercial reverse osmosis on a grand scale, you have to have soft water for those membranes. And when you bypass the water softener, you're going to have destructive process with the RO membranes. And what happens is the other issue is the wastewater from the filtration units. One of the questions that municipalities face right now is if we want to, filter the water, what do we do with the wastewater from filtration? Well, we found out that they inject it in some cases in the ground to refill aquifers, or they put it right back into the body of water where they draw the water from. So we have to really start looking at this, and I mentioned this last week, as a generational issue. What are we going to do for today, but what are we really going to do that's going to last for tomorrow? I think that's something that we really need to start thinking about. You're not going to have a short-term solution. We have to look at the long-term solution. And I think it starts, by, giving everybody a tax credit so they can purchase their own, water filtration. If people started removing contaminants from the water at home, I think that's the first step until they can really put together a legitimate process. And wastewater, any kind of water filtration system, reverse osmosis is, in my opinion, the most effective way at removing 98 to 99% of all unwanted contaminants in the water supply today. However, reverse osmosis units make it impossible to filter without wasting any water. And that's why I say wasting any water, because that's what you read on the internet is ROs waste too many water. RO is short for reverse osmosis. They waste too much water. Well, they really don't. What's going down the drain is the contamination, is all the gunk that they remove. Water is not 100% H2O. So when you filter the water, what's going down the drain is all the dirtiness that the reverse osmosis filter removed. And you have to have that clean flow, because what's happening is that all the dissolved solids the membrane's going to trap. Chemical contamination will pass through the membrane and go down the drain. When you're talking water filtration, everything starts with the water softener. Why is that? Because soft water is easy to filter. No matter what kind of filter mechanism you want to have in play, soft water allows any other filter mechanism to do its job better. Because hard water is calcium carbonate. And as calcium carbonate oxidizes, it creates that crusty scale buildup that you see. And for example, how many people out there have gone or have it in their home or have gone to a friend's house where they have the refrigerator with the water dispenser and ice dispenser, and you see all that tan, white, crusty buildup all over that water dispenser ice maker? What is that? That's hard water. So majority of those refrigerators have filters, almost every one of them. So that means that the hard water penetrates and passes through that filter. In some cases, when you test the water from a refrigerator, the hardness levels will be increased more than what was coming regular out of the tap. Public awareness campaigns. That's something we really need to do. We need to have initiatives to educate the public on the proper disposal of medications to prevent them from entering the water supply. How many people out there take medications and bring them back to their doctor's office? Or how many people just throw them in the wastebasket? Better yet, how many people just flush them down the toilet? Hey, if you want to call and have a conversation with me or ask a question, dial 303-477-5600. Let's take our next commercial. We'll be right back.
Colorado's residents are known for healthy lifestyles, outdoor living, and clean organic eating. 100% Colorado-owned and operated Water Pros provide affordable in-home water treatment options. Water Pros can help you with hard water, lead, and forever chemicals in your drinking water. Living organic means eating organic, and eating organic starts with clean water. Learn more about your water and schedule your free consultation today. WaterPros.net. Water Pros. Healthy water means a healthier you.
Hello, Paul the Waterman here for Water Pros. In the last 6 months, you've received letters from your local water company regarding the dangerous forever chemicals in your water. Several local news television outlets have done segments on the dangers in our drinking water. Trust me when I say pharmaceuticals are the next issue. Water Pros employs the latest technology and an expertly trained staff to help you with hard water and mitigating forever chemicals. Book your complimentary water test now at waterpros.net. That's waterpros.net.
If you have hard water, smelly water, or water that just tastes bad, improve the quality of your water with the professionals at Water Pros. Water is a precious resource that's a part of everyday life. Harmful cleaners, forever chemicals, microplastics, and pharmaceuticals end up in our water supply, and they don't just magically disappear. Water treatment should not cost tens of thousands of dollars or require long-term financing. For KLZ listeners, a complete Water Pros water treatment system start at only $31.95 installed. See why people are trusting the professionals with Water Pros. Water Pros is a family-owned and veteran-owned business dedicated to providing you the best in water treatment for less than the other guys. Go to waterpros.net today and request your free water test, or call 303-862-5554. That's 303-862-5554. And ask for the KLZ Listener Special. $31.95 for a whole house water softener and point of use reverse osmosis.
You're listening to KLZ 560, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. So another specific pharmaceutical contaminant is called cotinine. I'm going to spell it because I don't think I'm pronouncing it properly. It's cotinine. It's a metabolite of nicotine, commonly used as a biomarker for exposure to tobacco smoke. Boy, we knew that's in the water supply. You remember back in the day when everybody smoked? Holy moly. You remember, that's what I said last week too, didn't I say? I think everything has to be, considered a pharmaceutical. Look how big the metro area is growing. Look how many communities are developing in the last 30 years alone. But, but no additional waterways. It's the same water resources. It's just putting the same water resources in different locations. When you make a reservoir, they're not coming up with new water. They're just taking the water and putting it someplace else. And then the same, the aquifers. And our aquifers basically, are being replenished by rain, but also be replenished by the wastewater from the water treatment plants themselves. Carbamazepine is a neurotoxic and endocrine disruptor. Other studies have also found in water. So basically, endocrine disruptors. Again, my question is that what happens if some of our health issues that we're having are a direct reflect because of the water that we're drinking? And my question again is, what happens when you get certain hormones in our water supply that I don't think they're telling us? And this is just breaking off the Water Pros news. The Florida House on Tuesday gave final approval to a bill that would prevent local governments from adding fluoride to the water supply. Fluoride is natural in Colorado water, but fluoride is a major health risk, and one of the bigger issues, and it's not the worst issue, but one of the most publicized issues is fluoride is, it says it's a benefit to dental health, and I beg to differ. I think fluoride it does the opposite. So I wanted to share that with you. Thank you, Water Pros Crack News Team. Carbamazepine, and caffeine are others. The later, the carbamazepine is also a neurotic and endocrine disruptor. It also can, affect mood swings. Caffeine, we know what caffeine is. Caffeine in low concentration but high levels in water can affect aquatic life by altering their metabolism and behavior. And then cardiovascular issues in humans. Man, I tell you what, I have to do a better job at diphenhydramine, diphenhydramine is an anti-asthma used to treat allergies and sleep aid. It can cause drowsiness and sedation in aquatic organisms, potentially affecting their survival and reproduction. It can lead to unwanted sedatives, can impact cognitive function. Pfizer is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies globally, and its manufacturing processes can lead to there's release of unwanted pharmaceuticals in our environment. Johnson & Johnson produces a wide range of pharmaceuticals and personal care products that can contribute to the contamination through manufacturing and disposal processes. Merck & Company is known for extensive pharmaceutical production. So not one of these, I wonder, are these going to be the next, companies that we're going to see that happen with DuPont and 3M regarding the PFAS contamination? Bayer produces a range of pharmaceuticals and that can end up in bodies of water. Eli Lilly and Company can produce pharmaceuticals, including antidepressants, and that can lead to contamination in water, so on and so on. So I think what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we need to do our own research on. You can check this information out for yourself. But pharmaceutical contamination is real, and I don't think, we are at the tip of the iceberg of the problem. So, recap, we talked about nanoplastics, and nanoplastics can carry bacteria into the body. We talked about nanoplastics can carry viruses into the body. And we also talked about nanoplastics, and they form a thin film covering the bacteria that makes the bacteria contamination in an antibiotic state where antibiotics won't help. Antibiotic resistance is the term I'm looking for. So, we have to take the common sense approach when you're thinking about water treatment, water filtration, and you have to look at, let's review what we have, the main contamination concerns we have. One, obviously, is the forever chemicals, the PFAS, and the reason why that's number one is because shortly, in 2029, the EPA has mandated standards that municipalities and private water districts have to meet certain standards and guidelines, and that's basically having zero PFAS in the water supply. And when we think about that, what is there a water filtration method that can be used to effectively remove PFAS and also cut the wastewater, and what would we do with the wastewater product from the filtration? It's basically going to be a vicious circle if we're putting the wastewater from the water treatment plant right back into the bodies of water that we pull the water from. It's like Castle Rock. Castle Rock right now is at 35% reusable water. So that means it comes right from the waste treatment plant and goes right back into the water source or water supply. How is wastewater treated? So it's like one big septic system. As water comes into the waste treatment plant, the sludge, the solids, the biosolids, the bio-waste settles to the bottom. And that's separated. And then the water, gray water or contaminated water, floats over the biosolids into a separate tank. And then that water is treated, and then it's released right back to the water source that it was grabbed from. Let's say the Platte River. Let's say the Chat River. Let's say the Granby Lake. Dillon Reservoir. You name it, whatever body of water is available, you can bet is being used to provide water, to your community. And so we're going swimming in that water. We're going to be boating in that water. We're going to be fishing in that water, and we're going to be, eating the fish that we pull from the waterway. And we have to all think about the contamination. That's why, I mentioned this is a generational issue. This is something that we absolutely have to really come with, a solid filtration plan. One of the things I hear that's going to be used is everybody talks about activated carbon or charcoal carbon. Activated carbon is really good at removing organics. Activated carbon basically is made from wood, can be made from coconut shell, and it's a process where it's burnt. And then that carbon has many, many pores. And those pores are areas of absorption. So when you're trying to use a carbon as a filter media, other organics are going to occupy that space. First thing that I see that's going to occupy would be any kind of ferrous iron in the water supply, any kind of chloramine, chlorination in the water supply. So those two alone are going to take up surface area. And so what's left to remove other contaminants that we want to get rid of, like the forever chemicals, the PFAS contamination. So activated carbon, because it's a sponge, it's something that's not really what you could call reusable. You could rinse it and you could flush it off, rinse it with clean water. And if you rinse it with clean water, then, not 100% of the contaminant that's been absorbed by that carbon is going to be released. There's no ion exchange process. Ion exchange process is basically trading one element for the other. It's like a water softener or an anion resin system. It's going to grab the contaminant and it's going to release a bicarbonate. So what happens is sodium chloride is a detergent for both anion resin and cation resin. Sodium chloride is salt. So salt mixed with water, we call that a brine solution in the industry. So what a water softener does is it grabs all the hardness, and based upon the size of the system, even the cubic foot of filter media, and how hard the water is, determines how many gallons of water the system can filter. So on a standard 32,000 grain water softener, if it's based on the hardness level, let's say it can filter 1,500 gallons of water before it has to go through a cleaning cycle. So then that salt water during the cleaning cycle, that salt water causes the resin to release the hardness molecule. So if I've got calcium carbonate is hardness and sodium chloride is detergent, The calcium and the chloride go down the drain. The sodium carbonate is the byproduct of the water softener. So that's what comes out of the kitchen sink is sodium carbonate. So that's the ion exchange. Same with anion resin. Whatever uranium, whatever you have fluoride, uranium, nitrates, okay? Anion resin and PFAS are really good. It's a really solid, decent filter media, but it needs to be cleaned. I call it regeneration, or it needs to be flushed. And regeneration means it's renewed. The problem with anion resin is it's super sensitive, but during the cleaning cycle, again, it uses water softening salt. It takes the bicarbonate and it takes all the contaminant. It takes the uranium, the nitrates, the PFAS, and that sends it all down the drain. And then the byproduct is, sodium is that baking soda. So when you're talking about water treatment and water filtration, and you're talking about a large scale, I think anion resin would be, my favorite, would be highly recommended to use during filtration. But again, anion resin has to be supported by a water softener. So I don't think you're going to see a municipality that's going to, incorporate, a mammoth-sized water softener to protect the anion resin filter system. And again, we have what problem we have to deal with. The wastewater from these filtration systems. Where's the wastewater going to go? Now let's go back to, the beginning discussions on the water treatment plant, those biosolids. Right now, the biosolids are heavily contaminated with PFAS. And right now, the biosolids are not being tested on the levels of PFAS, and those biosolids are being given away, and they're being used as fertilizer. And what have we learned with contaminated biosolids? What have we learned? Remember when we had, those audio clips that we played with farms in Maine that were contaminated with biosolids, and it just ruined all the herds of dairy cattle, and the dairy cattle were full of PFAS. The milk was full of PFAS. They had to, destroy, the dairy herd. And then the contamination of the farmland because the biosolids of fertilizer contaminated the ground. So these are issues that I hear nobody talking about. I haven't read anything about it on a local level. But, these are something, the EPA can come up with, and they did this in 2024, recommended reverse osmosis, anion resin, and carbon. But on a grand scale, I don't remember them talking anything about the application. So that's something that's up to us. How are we going to design it? So I don't think activated carbon is something that's going to be effective. Let's take our last break. We'll be right back.
Forever chemicals, microplastics, pharmaceuticals, and total chlorine are real contaminants in our water. Clean water is essential for our everyday life. Water is the best flushing agent our bodies can use. We cook with water, we bathe in water, and we grow our food with water. Call Water Pros for your free in-home evaluation. Water Pros can educate you about the concerns of forever chemicals, microplastics, pharmaceuticals, and total chlorine, and discuss ways to remove these contaminants from your family's water supply. Call 303-862-5554 and request your free evaluation, or go to waterpros.net to request your free in-home consultation. Water Pros is a family-owned, veteran-owned business dedicated to offering the best solutions to meet the needs of the water concerns we have today. Call 303-862-5554 today or www.waterpros.net.
What's in your water? Are you unknowingly drinking hormones, antibiotics, or dangerous chemicals? Paul the Waterman here from Water Pros. Now is the time to have our professionals help you with affordable solutions to be sure your water is free from those contaminants. Call Water Pros today and visit waterpros.net. Toxic chemicals and bacteria last forever in your water if untreated. It's a crucial time to think about the quality of your water to be sure it's safe for you and your family. Call Water Pros today or go to waterpros.net.
The EPA is making changes in regulations for water safety because of elevated levels of lead, Gen X, and forever chemicals in water supplies. Locally owned and operated Water Pros has home treatment solutions ready to install today. Water Pros employs the latest technologies and an expertly trained staff to help you with hard water, lead in your water, and mitigating forever chemicals. Book your complimentary test and consultation now, waterpros.net.
560 KLZ, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. I'm Paul the Waterman. Thanks for being with me. So, in the grand scale of things, this is why, I'm mentioning to everybody that you really need to do your own, water filtration, because as of right now, the technology does not exist. And is it a necessity? You bet. With the reverse osmosis point of use drinking water filtration system, that absolutely can give you that protection, can help with the microplastics, nanoplastics, pharmaceuticals, forever chemicals. We do offer the whole house filtration, Echo Pro Max. Take a look at it. It has a limited lifetime warranty. That's what will remove the total chlorine content, free chlorine, hardness, and also the forever chemicals for the whole entire house. And so, there are solutions and options. We definitely have, for those on well water, we have systems that we've designed that can take care of uranium and radon and hardness. And, if you have high total dissolved solids, we can help you, there as well. It just starts with us to accept the fact that, and as it was stated, when we had Mike in the interview that Mike did with us, municipalities right now, I think, do their very best to give us the quality of water that we can use to shower and wash our clothes in. And, water is if you think about it, we like to say in the industry, water is, you break it down in two parts. 99.99% of the water we use is for bathing and for cleaning. It's that 0.1% that's for drinking and cooking. And, one of the things is how many people really drink their water. That's what the water, the water district thinks about. When you have a municipal water, treatment, and they get rid of the waste, and then they give you, the water, into your home, the thought process is how much water do people really drink? So they, by design, cannot give us high quality H2O. It's impossible. And right now, we don't have anybody talking about water filtration and water treatment like it should. Water quality, well water quality is changing. It will change. Well water quality will never be the same because I think it's also based on the tremendous amount of water usage. The city, the city of Denver, Aurora, Thornton, Castle Rock, there's only so much water resources that are available, and everybody's fighting for the same ones. So I remember a while back, 9 News did an interview where people are really thinking the future is reusable water from the water treatment plant. I mean, that's where we're going to. But there has to be more studies done based upon, certain concentrations of contamination increasing. Common sense is a dying commodity in today's world. It really is. So pharmaceutical contamination is something that, again, we're going to do more research. I'm going to get more information to share with you because I just think it's the tip of the iceberg. And I know there's more out there, and I'm going to find it. And because, another thing that we learned on a side note that, chlorine, the total chlorine, the chloramine. Hang on one second, pardon me. Sorry to clear my throat. The chloramine doesn't kill the virus or bacteria. It basically prevents it from reproducing. It sterilizes it. So I didn't realize that. I thought, the chlorination was something that instantly killed that bacteria, and it doesn't. So it sterilizes it. So that's why it answered the question. That's why, remember I asked during COVID, how could they go to a waste treatment plant and test positive for a virus with all the chlorination that was in the water at the waste treatment plant? Well, that's why. Because it doesn't kill it, it sterilizes it. So ideally, Paul the Waterman's idea for, the ideal water treatment system would be whole house water conditioner, point of use reverse osmosis, and the whole house ultraviolet light. That's what I have in my home, the ultraviolet light to zap the bacteria and viruses. I think, contamination is something that we should really, truly think about, and the thought process that if there's a mistake, if something happens in the water that's provided to us, it would be good to know that you've got a filtration system that can back you up, that can support you and your family. And why do I say that? Because there's been stories of folks that lived in Texas and in Florida that used their tap water to rinse their sinuses, and then they got the brain-eating amoeba from that alone and killed them. I mean, these are just facts. The other thing, let me go back, about the pharmaceutical contamination that I have. My concern about pharmaceutical contamination is if they're not going to tell us the truth, then my concern is that, eventually we're going to be at where you mix medications that could affect the current medication that you're taking. And then the nanoplastic problem. The nanoplastic, in theory, how many people have a stent? How many people have a wire mesh stent that's used to filter and prevent blood clots? And what happens if you get a buildup of nanoplastics? Nanoplastics can basically, build up in our fatty tissue. And so that's another issue. So if nanoplastics can bring in carcinogens, what about nanoplastics bringing in other metabolized pharmaceuticals? So I think we need to know if they can test for cocaine in our water supply, if they can test for heroin in our water supply, they can test for others. So what's the hormone levels? What are the hormone levels in our water? How many female hormones in our water? How many male hormones in our water? What's the puberty blockers are they showing up in our water supply? We know that ibuprofen and Tylenol is showing up in the water supply. So if you take acetaminophen, if you take Benadryl, and if Benadryl is mixed with any other over-the-counter medication, there's a potential for it to make you feel loopy. That's why, when you take Benadryl and allergies, you really don't want to take anything else, because if you do, it can really, make you feel like, you're really, high as a kite in some cases, and because I've seen it happen. I've seen family members make that mistake. So, these are, by taking a reverse osmosis and using that for the drinking water, for the coffee, for the teas, for soups, for cooking, for boiling pasta, vegetables, you're going to get all the natural nutrients you want and not be occupied by others. But then again, we have to remember this. Right now, we currently don't have a solution for a grand water filtration system at the water treatment plant because of the wastewater issue. The wastewater issue is from the filtration system itself. A decent filtration system has to be cleaned or backwashed. So that's why I'm ruling out activated carbon, because it really can't be effectively backwashed. There's only so much surface area and only so many gallons of water that activated carbon can filter. Last thing I want to talk about, remember in Adams County, they spent millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in filtration media that they got from Germany that was going to soften the water. And they sent letters out saying, adjust your water softeners because you're going to have softer water. Well, that hasn't lasted. But you're still paying for it if you lived in Commerce City or Union area. I've went out there and the water's testing just as hard as it was before that filter media was in place. So having a big filtration system is something that we really have to engineer. We need to have our Apollo 13 moment in water filtration. We really do. We can do it. It's that time already. I hear the music in the background. So listen, I want to thank all of my Water Pros Crack News team for helping me today. And I want everybody to enjoy the warm weekend ahead. Be blessed, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you.
Remember to reach out to Paul the Waterman with your questions and water filtration needs, and be sure to tune in to Water Talk Thursdays at 2 p.m. to talk with Paul. And for more information, find him on the programming page at klzradio.com.